Journey to the coldest city on Earth, Yakutsk. In my quest to find places that push human limits, I chose Yakutsk, the frozen heart of Siberia, a land forgotten by the world, where a single breath can make you feel the thin line between life and death. Before coming here, I thought I was familiar with the cold, but Yakutsk is a whole different world. The ground is frozen year-round, and people wear thermal clothing even indoors. Yet over 300,000 people still live, work, and go about their lives as usual. As someone raised under tropical sunshine, I brought many questions. What keeps them in a place so cold it seems unlivable? How do they endure such harsh winters? And me? Will I be able to adapt? I began preparing early, buying thermal gear, training to breathe in minus 50 degrees Celsius air, even getting used to my home freezer. But nothing could ready me for the moment, when my eyelids froze shut from the ice. I didn't come to Yakutsk just to tell a story about cold. I came to witness how humans overcome what seems impossible. This isn't a destination for comfort seekers, it's a trial of willpower. Ongoing conflict delayed my journey many times. Visa, MasterCard, Apple Pay, all useless in Moscow. Every step brought me closer to Yakutsk, the city wrapped in mythical frost, where the cold is just the beginning. But what haunted me most wasn't the cold. Join me now. Let's discover what it really was. Yakutsk, where everything freezes. Hello, everyone. Next, I'll take you to one of the harshest places humans have ever inhabited. Yakutsk, the coldest city on Earth. It's not the kind of cold that just makes you shiver. In Yakutsk, the cold becomes a living force, creeping into every breath, every step, and turning everything into ice in seconds. I remember clearly the moment I stepped out of the airport. Before I could even take in the scenery, a layer of frost had coated my lashes, my coat stiffened, and my skin felt as if the cold itself had slapped me awake. Siri, what's the temperature outside? It is currently minus 40 degrees Celsius. Why are all the cars running when no one is in them? The first strange thing I noticed, all the cars parked outside the church had their engines running, even though no one was inside. Turns out, locals never turn off their engines in the cold, because in just a few minutes, the engine oil will freeze, and the car will flatline. Cars here also wear jackets, thick covers called Natasha. They can cost up to $400, but are essential if you don't want your vehicle turning into a block of ice all winter. We tried walking a short distance to explore the city, but after just 10 minutes, I completely lost feeling in my hands. I screamed when I saw my nose turning bright red from the cold, and my feet felt like they were weighed down with stones. It may sound funny, but in Yakutsk, passing out isn't a joke. It's a real risk of death if you can't find warmth to recover. What would you do if your car had to run nonstop all winter? Could you live in a place so cold that even machines aren't allowed to rest? Share your thoughts below. Why do Yakut people stay here? You might wonder, as I once did, why would anyone choose to live in a place this cold? Then I heard the stories of the Yakut people, an indigenous group who have lived here for centuries. They didn't come here seeking something new. They belong here. Their ancestors hunted, fished, domesticated reindeer, and survived the cold through knowledge passed down generations, not through modern technology. When the Soviet era came, thousands of intellectuals were exiled here. And they, too, left descendants. These people, born into the ice and raised among snow, are now the proud residents of Yakutsk. Snow here doesn't melt, it floats like powder. I used to think snow was soft flakes that fell gently and melted in your hand. But in Yakutsk, the snow is dry like dust, light as smoke. Just stepping on it sends it floating up like a faint mist. Beautiful, but treacherous. You can get frostbite within minutes of exposing bare skin. People have lost fingers, toes, even whole arms, from just one mistake in this deceptively silent, brutal cold. Yakutsk is not for casual tourists. It's for those who want to touch the edge of human endurance, to understand that sometimes cold is more than just weather. It's nature's ultimate test of will. If you ever make it here, try standing outside for 5 minutes, take a deep breath, and you'll know why I'll never forget this place. I began to wonder, how do people survive here? What do they eat, wear, and how do they manage daily life when everything outdoors turns to stone? That answer is coming next. Shopping, eating, and crazy experiments in extreme cold. This morning, a local resident told me, "Today is warmer than yesterday." I laughed and asked, "So, what do you consider cold then?" The answer stunned me. It has to drop below minus 45 degrees Celsius for me to actually feel cold. Minus 30 degrees Celsius? I can still take my dog for a walk. This isn't just a weather difference. It's a whole different mindset for survival. For me, it was cold enough to freeze my thoughts. For them, it was just a slightly chilly morning. Clothing in Yakutsk, not fashion, but survival gear. I brought along a high-quality pair of thermal boots from home, but after just one day of walking, my feet were nearly frozen stiff. My skin started to burn from the cold, and I felt like I had no control over my steps. I quickly headed to the Chinese market in Yakutsk, famous for its winter gear, designed for life in deep freeze. It's also where you can buy traditional Yakut survival wear. Look for handcrafted Yakutia-style boots made specifically for temperatures down to minus 50 degrees Celsius. Key features include natural fur lining inside, excellent heat retention, even during long hours outdoors, high ankle design that fits snugly, blocks wind, and keeps blood circulation steady. Decorative beadwork, not only beautiful but showcases traditional Yakut cultural patterns. Thick, lightweight, and durable material helps you move easily on slippery surfaces. I tried a size 46 pair, a perfect fit. It felt like I had just equipped real survival armor. How would you feel having to suit up like a frozen battlefield warrior every time you leave the house? Could you handle wearing 10 layers every day? Share your thoughts below. The entire city, a giant freezer. In most places, people need refrigerators to store food, but in Yakutsk, all you need is a shopping basket and the open sky. The fish market here is known as the coldest outdoor food market in the world. Fish, meat, and fruits are laid out openly, no covers, no freezers, and they don't spoil. Nature itself is the perfect freezer. I picked up a piece of fish. It was as solid as a rock, stiff and completely unbendable. Every step I took on the ground echoed with a hard clack sound, like walking on icy concrete. How locals fight off the freeze. I noticed that vendors stood on reindeer hides, a natural material known for extreme cold resistance, insulating them from the frozen ground. One fish vendor shared, "I wear 2 pairs of pants, 2 thermal layers, and we take turns drinking hot tea just to keep our blood flowing." I asked her about horse meat, a traditional Yakut dish. She smiled and said, "Horse meat warms the body very well. Russians aren't used to eating it, but for us, it's a vital part of our heritage." She even invited me to a local eatery to try it, an invitation I couldn't refuse. Bus stops, equipped with heating systems. This really surprised me. Yakutsk bus stops have built-in heating. In minus 50 degrees Celsius temperatures, no one can stand outside and wait for a bus without risking frostbite. Inside, there's a digital board showing when the bus arrives. People only step out when it's right there. Every second outdoors is calculated like a survival strategy. Scientific experiments. In extreme nature, I couldn't resist trying a few crazy experiments to test the real power of the cold here. Boiling water turns to snow in midair. I tossed a cup of boiling water into the air. It turned into a white mist and instantly froze, falling like soft snow. Eggs crack from the cold in just 5 minutes. Both the yolk and the white had solidified, swelled up, and cracked the shell on their own. Using a frozen banana as a hammer left outside, a banana became as hard as stone. I used it to strike a nail, and it actually drove it in. Wet clothes stiffen into wooden boards less than 10 minutes after hanging out a padded jacket. It turned rigid, standing upright by itself without a hanger. I began to realize that surviving in Yakutsk isn't just about staying warm and eating enough. It's an entire survival system designed specifically for this extreme cold. What you eat, which foods retain heat, which ones don't. How you move, when to go, and what to use. How you dress, inner and outer layers, and how to cover your face. How you drink, hot tea constantly to keep blood circulating. How you think, every action must be planned. After just a few attempts to experience the cold here, we were already shaken by its brutality. But that was just the surface. Stranger things await. Winter burials are an engineering feat, and the water pipes don't run underground. They float above the ground. Yakutsk, the city that never touches the ground. Upon arriving in Yakutsk, I quickly realized one thing. Beneath the soil you're standing on lies not regular earth or bedrock, but permafrost, a layer of eternal ice stretching 400 to 600 meters deep, underground. And it never melts. Unless you accidentally cause it to. When houses must float above the ice. In Yakutsk, you'll never see a house built directly on the ground. Even a small amount of heat from a building's foundation can melt the permafrost beneath, causing the ground to shift and crack, potentially collapsing the entire structure like a broken biscuit. Every structure here, from homes and schools to government buildings, is raised on pillars or elevated foundations to remain isolated from the frozen earth. I once passed a house visibly tilting, a sad reminder of what happens when construction ignores the science. In Yakutsk, architecture isn't just an art form, it's the science of survival. Warmth from the center, the entire city shares one heating system. While many places around the world rely on individual heaters, Yakutsk is powered by a massive central heating system operated by the government. Heat is distributed through a network of pipelines that snake through the city like arteries carrying warmth through a body. Homes, schools, hospitals, offices, all depend on this system. If the central heating fails, Yakutsk would become a giant cemetery in just a few hours. Because of this, each building has up to 3 layers of doors. The first door blocks the cold wind, the second door retains internal heat. The final door is the main entryway. Just stepping outside takes minutes, and each door is a barrier guarding against the deadly cold waiting beyond. The water system, floating in the air, not buried in the ground. Permafrost makes traditional underground infrastructure impossible. So in Yakutsk, you'll see all water pipes, power lines, and gas systems running above ground, wrapped in thick insulation, suspended like exposed veins across the city. From a distance, these overhead pipelines look like the lifelines of some giant organism surviving in the ice. Burial, a winter challenge of its own. One of the most unforgettable things I witnessed in Yakutsk, the coldest inhabited region on Earth, was how people confront death during winter. In the brutal sub-zero temperatures, burying a loved one becomes more than a farewell ritual. It's a grueling battle with nature. The ground in winter becomes as hard as concrete. You can't dig with shovels. The metal blades only ring out clang-clang as if striking stone. Locals have devised a method. They burn firewood continuously for 3 to 4 days, right where the grave will be, just to soften the frozen surface. Even then, only a few inches of ground are thawed. After that, heavy industrial drills are brought in to dig deeper into the permafrost. Because this process is time-consuming, labor-intensive, and costly, many families opt to store their loved ones' bodies in cold rooms or special preservation facilities, waiting until spring when the earth thaws to hold a proper burial. In Yakutsk, the cold doesn't just make life fragile, it can delay the final goodbye. Sometimes parting with someone means waiting. Through an entire winter. How would you feel if a loved one passed away in winter and you had to wait until spring to lay them to rest? Would that send chills down your spine? Share your thoughts. What might still be alive beneath those hundreds of meters of ice? Then, Yakutsk gave me the answer. In the next chapter. Beneath the ice diamonds and the warmth of humanity. Just when you think you've experienced all the cold Yakutsk has to offer, the city reveals another layer. Not above ground, but buried hundreds of meters deep beneath the ice. And what I found there wasn't just frost and silence, it was life, history, and some of humanity's most astonishing wonders. A real-life kingdom of ice. I entered an ice cave deep underground, where the temperature has remained unchanged for thousands of years. The ceiling, walls, and floors were made entirely of pure crystalline ice, cold, shimmering, and so silent you could hear your heartbeat. I'm sitting on a chair made entirely of ice. This is my kingdom, and I am the Ice King. I shouted, laughing as the echo danced around the cave. But beneath the joke was something deeper. I felt incredibly small, humbled by the power and permanence of nature. Prehistoric life still sleeps in the ice in Yakutsk. I witnessed something you'd usually only see in museums, and even then, only as replicas. A real woolly mammoth carcass, preserved with flesh, skin, and fur intact, frozen in place for tens of thousands of years beneath the permafrost. As climate change gradually melts the ice, ancient relics are waking up from their frozen slumber. Not in labs, but right here. Yakutsk is a living museum of Earth's history. Yakutsk, where frozen stone hides diamonds. When people think of Yakutsk, they usually imagine numbing cold. But few know that beneath this permafrost lies one of the world's richest treasures, diamonds. Yakutia, the region where Yakutsk is the capital, produces nearly 25% of the world's natural diamonds. In other words, at least 1 out of every 4 diamonds in the world comes from this icy land. Why here? The answer lies in millions of years of geological pressure beneath Siberia. Extreme heat, enormous pressure, and time fused carbon into some of the purest diamonds on Earth, buried deep below the permafrost. From open pit mines like Mirny to underground excavation sites, Yakutsk has become a strategic center for Russia's and the world's diamond industry. Horse meat and human kindness in the coldest city on Earth. For the first time in my life, I tried horse meat, a staple in Yakut culture. More than food, it's seen as a secret to surviving their brutal winters. I was surprised by the first bite, tender, firm, and richer in flavor than beef, yet strangely easy to enjoy. The food here mirrors the spirit of its people, practical, strong, and enduring. As the only person of color for hundreds of kilometers, I worried, will I be welcomed? But what greeted me were warm smiles, friendly photo requests, and curious eyes, never judgmental ones. "Hello, Africa," they laughed and waved. No pretense, no prejudice, just pure hospitality amid the cutting cold. In this land, I met some of the most resilient humans I've ever encountered. Mothers dragging sleds full of supplies, children in fur coats running through the snow as if they'd never heard of cold. A tiny Yakut girl once told me she dreamed of visiting Seoul, London, Tokyo, in a place that seems remote and closed off. The seeds of dreams still grow with quiet determination. And I realized, if people can survive in a land where winter lasts 7 months, where graves must be burned into the ground for 3 days, where electronics fail in minutes, and yet still smile, still dream, still live with warmth in their hearts, then we, as a species, can adapt to anything. Yakutsk isn't just the coldest city in the world. It's where I found some of the warmest people I've ever known. And so, we close the chapter on our journey through the coldest place on Earth, Yakutsk. But this is just the first doorway. In the next episode, I'll take you even deeper into the vast heart of Siberia, where life's harshness doesn't break people, but makes them stronger than ever. Thank you for joining me in the frost and warmth of Yakutsk. If you found this journey inspiring and want to keep discovering the world's hidden corners, hit that subscribe button now, so you won't miss a single step in the adventure ahead. There are still so many incredible stories waiting for us. See you in the next episode.